when we look at the statistics of 6.5 Catholics leaving for every one convert, we have to say something went wrong the past 50 years on the salvation of souls.
That's right. I mean, that's hemorrhaging.
Hemorrhaging.
Critical blood loss at this point. I mean, if you were a business and you're like, for every customer we gain, we lose 6.5, you are bankrupt in a year. The only reason we're hanging on here is because they've got land holdings and they've got a lot of properties and, but we are going to see financial collapse and vocations collapse in the next 20 years like people don't even expect.
Well, and, all through seminary, Dr. Marshall, when we looked at these numbers, that we had explosions from 1900 and 1960 in Catholicism, and then everything tanked after Vatican II, we were all trained to say that was because of the sexual revolution, not because of Vatican II. And I was the first of those. Oh, that wasn't because of Vatican II. Or maybe Vatican II was misimplemented, but it was essentially the sexual revolution. But the new Pew study actually goes so far as to say that these numbers bleeding 6.5 to 1 is only found in Catholicism. Only found in Catholicism. So wait a minute. Did the sexual revolution only affect Catholics, or did something internal infiltrate the church?
Yeah, I mean, why aren't the evangelicals having that problem?
Exactly.
They're not. As a matter of fact, the evangelicals in America are more pro-traditional marriage, non-LGBT, and more against abortion than we Catholics are, who apparently have the monopoly on being pro-life and pro-marriage. We believe marriage is a sacrament. They don't even believe that, or the Protestants. And they have a stronger defense by the numbers, I'm saying. I mean, you could walk into some whacked out, mainline church and it wouldn't be that way. But by the numbers, they do better than we do. And when it comes to voting for candidates, they do way better than we do.
And you mentioned on one of your podcasts, you were talking on Catholic Answers. I was working for Focus. I think maybe some people look at you and me as kind of these grumpy people who just got disenfranchised with certain things. But no, you and I both got into this to win as many people to Christ. And then we kind of had this same wake up that Vigano did, where we had to say, wait a minute. I've been saying for years that Vatican II is misimplemented, but is there a chance that documents that promote ecumenism eventually, or at least were commensurate in the mind of the hierarchy and therefore the laity, that really any religion will get you to heaven? And this is where we have to say, once we allow for ecumenism as it's understood by modernists, does this literally subjectively, does it subjectively empty the cross of its power? Does ecumenism empty the cross of its power? Vigano would have said no 5 years ago. He's saying yes now.
Yeah.
Subjectively emptying the cross of its power.
I would have 10 years ago. I mean, I was 9 years ago. I'm attending the Latin Mass. I was still defending Vatican II.
Me too.
I was saying, well, we need to follow Benedict XVI. He's calling us to implement the hermeneutic of continuity. Yes, there's obvious ambiguity and problems in the text of Vatican II, obviously, that most people take in the wrong way. But it's our job. We've got to muscle through it. We got to be strong. We have to do the hard work and dig down deep, and we have to provide the proper interpretation of Vatican II. It's going to take a lot of work. We got to go into all these old papal documents, and we got to do footnotes and cross, citing and all that, but we can do it. Well, then in 2013, what happened? The new guy on the throne, Pope Francis, he starts quoting all these documents against us and using the interpretation that we've been trying to undermine.
Let's admit, he's the intended outcome of Vatican II.
Exactly. So now we're realizing, now they've got what they want. They have a council that has junk in it and ambiguity. But it was kind of okay because people were sort of, people still had the formation of pre-council. The people still knew you pray the rosary, you go to confession. As we got further and further away, and those people who had the old time seminary training and the old time First Communion classes and all that, as they kind of faded, and then finally we get the Pope, the revolution of Cope and Tierra, as the permanent instruction of Alta Bendita says. Now you've got the guy in Rome in the white cassock quoting the documents to further confuse people. So everything we thought we were trying to correct in the council, we're now being seen made even more firm and more magisterial and more against us. So then guys like me, guys like Vigano are like, okay, we realize that this is an impossible task.
You went to the second Sunday after Pentecost, and that's the Mass I offered right behind me. And I'll just read a couple verses. It was from Luke 14, verse 16. A man once gave a banquet and invited many, and at the time for the banquet he sent his servant to say to those who'd been invited, "Come, for everything is now ready." But they all alike began to make excuses. A few verses later, then the master of the house became angry and said to his servant, "Go out quickly to the streets and lanes of the city and bring in the poor and crippled and blind and lame." And the servant said, "Sir, what you commanded has been done, and still there is room." The master said to the servant, "Go out to the highways and hedges and compel people to come in, that my house may be filled." So right behind here is my altar, Dr. Marshall. And when I was reading that, I was thinking a little bit about this podcast. I wasn't sure if you were going to be able to join, but it hit me at that point. This is what Vigano is doing to reach out to Trump, a man who's 3 times married, who sometimes tweets like it's locker room material, and we see this is how like James Martin and Archbishop Gregory treated him, saying that he never should have come in the shrine of John Paul II. They're treating him as a horrible person. These people who've promoted ecumenism for 50 years now all of a sudden say to a Protestant, it's a horrible thing to be in there. What if we're at the point in these pre-apocalyptic days where there's so much of the first century repeated, where Jesus says, okay, all these people in the hierarchy are rejecting my articulated faith and morals. Go into the highways. Go to talk to these 3 times married priests. Go to talk to the evangelicals who 20 years ago were ripping on the Catholic Church. Why are all these evangelicals following you? Why is Trump retweeting Vigano if there isn't this prevenient actual graces being given for people to come into the church?
That's right. That's right. And in order for if the Catholic Church can have if it's not the end times and time of the Antichrist, but we're going to have a renewal in an age of the Holy Ghost or age of Mary or whatever, certain private revelations talk about this. The only way that we are going to get to there is if we come clean.
Yes.
And say, we have had a major failing. It's going to take a holy pope. It's going to take holy cardinals. It's going to maybe take a holy council. People to say, we lost our way and we're getting back on track. That will capture the attention of an evangelical. That will capture the attention of a Mohammedan. Because right now, all they see is you guys are okay. I mean, when I was an Episcopal priest and I was like, should I convert? Talking to Catholics. No, you're fine. Don't convert. Stay where you're at. And I didn't even respect that. I was like, man, if you really think your religion's the true one, you should at least tell me to come over to it.